My name is Melvin Newman with PataBid. I am the founder and CEO of the company. With me today is Ryan, who is our account executive and basically head of all things sales and demos and all of that kind of goodness. We're here today to talk about estimating. You know, what we provide at PataBid to help with digitizing, estimating, how this interacts with City Electric, and how we can help automate your estimating processes with the PataBid Quantify platform. So what I'm going to do, I am going to share my screen here, and we will kick this off. So let me share this screen. There we go. And Ryan, can you confirm that you can see that? We've got a screen share working. Always a fun thing to
I can see
watch
it.
out for. Excellent. Oh, there's two Ryans on this call. Hello, other Ryan. Very good. So yes, what PataBid is a cloud-native estimating platform, specifically geared towards electrical contractors and the nuances and business of what you do on a day-to-day basis. So when you come to the platform here, you can go to our website, patabid.com, click on the sign up, and it will take you to this login page here where you can click on register. Fill out this form, and this will kick off a completely free 2-week trial where you can give a complete test of the system. You have full access to it, run some projects, one or two projects through it. What we recommend to our clients to do is run a past project through. That way you can do kind of a cross compare to make sure that the numbers line up and that everything kind of makes sense with something that you've done in the past. Some of our clients have jumped right in and done an active bid on it. That can be a little more stressful. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to log in. And when you first log in, you start at the estimate management screen. So in here, you can organize your estimates. You can put them into a folder structure. When you first register, you'll see kind of just this templates folder up here, but you can right click and add new folders in. In the bottom left here, we've got links to all of our tutorial videos. This is really key. These are all posted to our YouTube channel. You can follow the YouTube channel. We are continuously updating with new content there. And we're covering basically everything to do with running the platform. There are dozens of tutorial videos in there to walk you through getting set up, getting going. We've got shortcuts into them here. If you go to YouTube and you search PataBid training list, you can pull up all of the details on those videos. You do not have to register or sign up to access them. They're there to basically just help you understand what the platform is and how it works. And we're also continuously updating that channel with short tips and tricks videos. Different ways of using the platform, different methodologies of estimating, all of that kind of detail going in. So within the folder structure here that you create for your estimates, one of the things that I personally strongly recommend is organize by year. If you have multiple different regions, if you have different estimators, all of that, you can set up a folder structure kind of for each one of those scenarios, or you can keep it very simple. But if you're organizing by year, when you click on one of these folders, it's going to pull out all of the details on the estimates that are in there. And that is going to give you the statistics. It's going to show you everything that you've done, in that year. And this can become an incredibly powerful library of historical data. So if you go in and you load in the square footage values, it's going to back calculate your dollars per square foot, that sort of information. And it takes, maybe 30 seconds of extra effort to plug those values in. But the one time that you're asked by a client for a rapid fire square footage value, this can become an incredibly powerful library specific to your business, the way that you do things, and allow you to do those budgets extremely quickly. We had one of our clients out of Ontario who pulled off a $4.5 million budget within a couple of hours because they had been tracking all of their square footage values over a couple of years. So that was a really fascinating one where they were given, zero notice on. The client called them up and said, "I need a budget on this 60% complete document package, and I need it now." Kind of the typical stuff we always run into. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to right click on the demos folder and I'm going to add a new estimate in. And so when I click on this, it's going to ask me for a name. I'm going to give it a name here. You can name it however you want. And you can select a template to open this estimate with. There's a couple of different options that come out of the box here, the default template and the small house one. But you can create any of these templates for yourself, for your business. If you can edit the ones that come out of the box. What they are is a collection of settings on, different things like breakdowns, closeout options, all of that kind of thing. So if you have a client that always likes to see things a certain way, you can create a template for that. If you have commercial, industrial, those kind of projects, you can create individualized templates for each of those types of work that bring in all of your settings for that kind of a job. So I'm going to hit create here. There we go. And it goes into my list. When I click on it, there's some further details that I can plug in here. I've got my different dates across the top. Strongly recommend tracking the closing dates. Again, that will come back later for those statistics, and also with some of the reporting, it will automatically populate those fields. Then we have labor. So out of the box, we've got a couple of different labor manuals in here geared towards electrical. We've got the Suderman Quantify labor book in here. Suderman is a training organization that specializes in electrical training and teaching electrical estimating and all of that. They also produce a labor manual. And so we partnered with them and we plugged this labor manual right into the platform here. We also have the NECA labor manual loaded in here. So that's the North American Electrical Contractors Association. Excuse me. Strongly recommend, if you don't have a copy of the NECA manual, get a copy of it. It is a tremendous resource, 500 plus pages of some of the most boring reading you can do, but absolutely invaluable. Excuse me. The same goes for the Suderman manual. Very powerful resource on how to estimate. Now, Suderman is heavily geared towards commercial residential work. And NECA is geared more towards larger, major unionized projects, that sort of thing. So if you understand the assumptions between them, you're free to use either one. You can switch while you're in your estimates and do kind of those cross compares in there and identify the correct labor for that project. Then we have pricing. So out of the box, there is the Quantify pricing source. It is list price. It updates roughly monthly. It's really good for kind of backfilling holes in an estimate, doing change orders, that sort of information. We then have a direct integration with City Electric. This one is incredibly powerful. It allows you to bring in real-time component pricing on all of the fiddly bits, your cable, your boxes, all of that kind of stuff, effectively in real time. And we'll show you how that works within the estimate. And then you can decide, you're in total control of the pricing that you want to bring in to your bid. You can also track in here who you're bidding to. This one is entirely optional, but again, it can become a very powerful way of identifying, who you're being successful with, whether these are owners, general contractors, the people that you are submitting your pricing to. And it all goes back to those statistics that will help you identify who you're bidding to, who's actually awarding you work, that sort of thing. If you're bidding to a GC that consistently tells you you're in second place and never gives you a contract, there's a good chance they're working with somebody else out there. And you might want to reconsider actually bidding to them. Whereas if you're continuously getting awards from a GC, you know very well that you have a strong relationship with them, and that can be very valuable data for identifying who to work with on future projects. And all of this can be tracked again in here. It is optional, but it can go back to generating very powerful statistics for your specific company and market. The next step here is to bring in documentation. You can do a bid without any documents, and we'll show you in a moment here kind of how you can do just those quick kind of one-off BOM style projects, or if you're just doing a quick change order. I'm going to click on this box here. It's going to open up a file dialog box. You can actually drag and drop right in there. There's a couple of different ways of getting the documents in here. But once I click on this, it's going to bring those PDFs in. Anything PDF can be attached into your estimate. And these PDFs, they can be plans, specifications, whatever you're going to base your pricing on. So with that all set up, we do also have kind of like a notes area here where you can type in anything that you want to kind of remember about this estimate right front and center. But once you've got this all configured up here and ready to roll, the next step is to click this green button here. When you click on this green button, it's going to launch you into the estimate. And you'll notice along the top here, they open up as different tabs in your browser. Again, it's cloud native. There's nothing that needs to be installed on your desktop. Anywhere where you have a browser, you can connect in and get to your estimates. We've had a couple of our clients reach out to us, just for some tech help, and it turns out they were on a beach in Cuba and they were closing projects from there. On the left-hand side here, we've got our documents. These are the files that we've attached into this estimate. I can expand these out and see the pages that are in there. And then when I click on one of these pages, it's going to load it up in here and show me what I'm looking at. So this is very similar to a Bluebeam, Adobe if you're used to AccuBid with Live Count, or the graphical Takeoff in McCormick. And you can drag this around, you can zoom in and out, and you can view these drawings right within the platform here. And as I click through this, it's just going to open up different pages. Then we've got estimate items here. These are one-off things that you can create in your bids. So if you've got some owner that's importing some random chandelier from Dubai, something that you're really not going to see ever again in different projects, you can plug it in here as a very quick estimate specific item. Then we have typicals. Typicals are, so if you just click on new item there we go. Typicals are estimate specific assemblies. So we're going to come back to these. They are a mixture of a couple of different workflows, but they are very helpful for things like lighting, distribution, equipment, any of these kind of project specific pieces. And we'll show you how that works specifically with lighting here. Then we have our global items database. So this is everything that comes out of the box. So when you sign up, you have full access to this. It is being continuously updated. We have our own data entry people. We are always deploying new product in here. This is one of those things where being cloud native is incredibly powerful because the moment we deploy product, you have access to it. And if there's anything that's missing in here, you're welcome to send us a link to product catalogs. Anything that you want to see in here, you can send it over to us and we'll have our people enter it in. We do not charge our clients for that. You can also customize this however you want. You can add your own items in. So if there are specific things that you want to account for in your estimates, you can plug those in. Also, anything that you plug in is locked to your company. Nobody else can see it. Nobody else can touch it. And it's yours. Anything that we plug in does go to the global system. And we've got in here, very comprehensive. We're over 58,000 items in here. Essentially everything that you would need kind of day to day to put together your estimates in here. So these are the specific items you might need to use. So, a receptacle, an EV charging station, wall mount station, that sort of piece here, or, solar, that sort of thing in here. Then we move on to assemblies. So assemblies take those items and they package them together into an installation. So we all know, like if we go look at kind of the power drawing here, nobody is running around a building taping these little symbols on the wall. These symbols represent anywhere up to a dozen individual small components. And that is what an assembly brings together. All of our assemblies are formula driven. So if you know a little bit of Excel, you can build very powerful assemblies in our system very quickly. There is a whole series of these that do come out of the box, but this is really where most of our clients spend their time customizing things. Every contractor kind of has their own secret sauce. So you can take our assemblies, you can right click on them, copy them, paste them. The moment you do that, you take ownership of it. That assembly becomes yours. You can do whatever you want to it. You can also create assemblies from scratch. And we go into all of the details on that in our in-depth training with our clients on the platform. But effectively, what it's going to do here, if I grab one of these receptacles here, it's going to bring in all of the components related to that. And we'll see that in a moment here. Then we have our breakdowns. So breakdowns are a very powerful feature. It depends on the nature of the project that you're bidding on. If you're doing kind of a small $30,000 project, maybe it's a compressor at a water treatment plant, or maybe it's a renovation in a residential house, there's probably nothing that you really need to worry about breaking out on that. But when you get into kind of larger projects, commercial tenant fit ups, those sort of things, oftentimes the owner will send over a bid form and you can load that in here so that you can break out your project to the bid form. Or they might want to see at a higher level, what sort of systems do we have in here? What do they cost? Especially if they want to do optional pricing on different components. Maybe they want to have, different styles of lighting, that sort of thing. Again, it really depends on the nature of the project. But by using these breakdowns, it allows the system to help you break out your estimate later on. And so it can be very powerful, again, depending on the nature of the work that you're doing. On the right-hand side, we've got our quick item pads. So quick item pads are shortcuts into the items and assemblies database. And so in here, when you select a quick item pad, it sort of becomes the inventory for what you're looking at. So when I select commercial distribution, I'm getting in all of my AC90 cable. I'm getting my EMT for my home runs, that sort of information. If I select a EMT based, say a THHN here, everything's being hard piped down to the device. And everything's going to come in with THHN wire, etc. So this is really kind of the inventory, the specification for what you're working on at that time. You can edit these. So when I click on the edit button here, this is a very quick kind of drag and drop. You can bring in different components, again, your own assemblies, any of the other assemblies out of the database. When you click on one of these buttons, you can assign things like icons to it. You can set the color for the button. So this is really critical because this is the color that it's going to mark up the drawing with if you're doing a drawing-based takeoff here. And you can set different things like line widths, etc. One of the unique things about our platform is it is full multi-user. You can have multiple estimators working within the platform at the same time. You can even have multiple estimators working on the same estimate at the same time. When you set up these quick item pads, they are global to your company. So any of your estimators can see them and use them and work with them. And it goes to consistent reproducible estimates. So when I select this quick item pad, if I have somebody, a superintendent who's between jobs and I want to have them help me do some counts, that sort of thing, I can sit them down at a station, load up this quick item pad for them and say, go count all the demolition in this case. And I know that when they are done that, they've used all the same assemblies that I would have used, and they will have come up with the same price that I would have come up with. So it's a really powerful way of ensuring that your estimates are going to be consistent. To do some takeoff, I'm going to click on this 15 amp receptacle here, and this is where those formula-driven assemblies start to kick in. It's going to ask me what kind of wire do I want to run on this. It's a commercial project. Minimum wire size in this case is number 12. I'm going to select that. I'm going to allow a 10-foot whip off of each one of these receptacles. So basically, I'm envisioning running this cable through the ceiling space. And then I can come over here, left click, draw the box around these, and I can start to plug in my counts. And when I hit commit here, it's going to go into my audit trail. So everything that you do during your takeoff process feeds into what is called the audit table here. And this audit table is the line-by-line method that you used to build this estimate. When I click on one of these, it's going to highlight on the drawing the related items. Same thing, if I click on the drawing, it's going to show me in the audit trail what's related to that. And this gives you a traceable set of data that you can take back and know if it is marked up on the drawing, it is in the estimate. If it's down here, you can click on that and see and validate what is in your takeoffs. Manually taking things off is incredibly labor intensive. What we're going to do here, I'm going to delete that line and I'm going to click on this receptacle again. And it's going to remember my settings from the last time I did this takeoff. And instead of counting it manually, I'm going to click on this yellow icon here. This switches us into rapid count mode. And I could send this out over multiple drawings if I had multiple drawings in here to do that. Just check them off. I can also set a fenced off area on a drawing. This is very helpful if you're doing if the engineer is, use the same symbol to mean different things. If you're doing a cubicle farm, electrical versus base building, that sort of thing. But what I can do now is come over here and draw my box around this receptacle and hit commit. And that's going to send this off to our servers, and they're going to take over and start doing that count for me. And while that count is going on, I can switch over to other things in here. If you give me 1 second here. I'm just getting a notice here. I really do apologize. But effectively, what it's going to do here is it takes about 30 seconds to a minute to put together the counts, all of those kind of components for you, and you can queue these up. So In here, if I had other kind of pieces in here, I can select, switch over to say my data and communications in here. If I had to go after different components in here for these cameras, for example, I can do that. I can select in here this, and I can start to count these and send that over. While that is all going on, I can start to extract different pieces from my projects here. And I can go after, the lighting schedules. This is really where we want to start to set up our typicals. So what I'm going to do in my typicals here is I'm going to right click and add a new folder in here. And I'm going to give this a name. So I could call this my lighting, for example. So if I'm going to type this in, or in this case, it remembers from the last time, and I can hit create. And so with this in here now, if I click on my typicals, I've got this folder in here. And I can right click on this folder and I can start to add in new typicals in here. And so what I want to do in here is I can start to add in, all of my tagged items here, or I can use our table extraction tool here. So in the top right here, I've got this extract a table from a drawing button here. And this works with any sort of table. So when I click on this, I can come over here and I can select this table here. This is my lighting table. So typical kind of commercial project, I've got a lighting schedule in here. I'm going to click on include the light fixture tag in here, and then I can click on send. And again, this is going to fire this over to our servers, and they're going to start pulling apart this table for me. And what we're going after here is all of these tags, if you will. What we want to do is get our counts out as fast as possible. Engage our suppliers on putting together the quotes for the lighting on here. So when I refresh this, I can see that the AI has pulled this out. It missed 2 of these rows. That's fine. I can add those in myself, because when I click on typicals now and expand this out, I can see in here all of the different tags that I'm going to be needing for my lighting in here. And then when I switch over to my lighting drawing, I can simply start to perform this takeoff right away. And so what I'm going to do here is, again, double click on my FR1. I'm going to select rapid count here, and I'm going to highlight my FR1 and hit commit. And it sends it over to the servers, and the servers have taken over and they're starting to do that count for me. Again, I can queue all of this up. When I double click on my FS1 here we go. I can highlight that, send it over, and it's going to go into the queue here. And I'll do the same thing with my FS2 here. And hit commit. And here we go. So while we've got all of these counts kind of queued up, we can switch around again to other drawings here. So if I go back to my power and distribution drawing here, I can see, okay, we've got our cameras counted now. We've got 119 of these receptacles counted. It's not going to be 100% perfect. The AI works in collaboration with the estimator. What I can do, so we can see in kind of these areas where the symbols have been overrun with numerous different lines, that sort of thing. What I can do is simply right click on any of the receptacles that it has counted, copy that, and paste that in. And here we go. When I right click, that's going to go into my estimate here. And now these are all coming in again as those assemblies. And so I've got this drop down arrow here. When I click on that, this is going to extend out that assembly and show me everything that it's bringing in. So we're going right down to the screws, the cable, the boxes, the plates, every item that you would need to install that receptacle is counted for in here. Now to go back to that lighting, and I realize I am hopping around a little bit here. I want to show kind of the different techniques on this. If we go back to our lighting drawing here, we used the typicals to take this off. And we can see in here, there's quite a few of the FR1s that the AI did not grab. So what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to double click on my FR1 again, and I'm going to select rapid count. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the server to take another run at this. But if it finds something, don't double count it. And I'm going to do that by saying replace overlapping counts. And then I can simply highlight one of the ones that it missed and send that over. The same goes for my FS1s here. Typically, if there's, just 2 or 3 things that are missed, I'm going to copy and paste that. Like if I look at my FS2s here, it's done a pretty awesome job at that. So I'm just going to copy and paste the one here that it missed. The FS1s, there's a few more of those, so I'm just going to tell it to run against that again also. But these are coming in as simply the tags right now. So if I open up one of these lines here, so my FR1s, for example, inside that FR1 is only the tag here. So I'm getting my various different counts for all of my light fixtures. But at any point during the estimating process here, I can come back and I can right click and edit this FR1. And this is going to turn blue because what I'm doing is I'm editing the typical. Anything that I take off right now is going to go into that typical. And there's some incredibly powerful features in our typicals here, like the ability to bake in your breakdown. That's what we call it. So you can almost treat these as sub-estimates. That's usually used if you're doing kind of multifamily, that sort of style of takeoff. But in this case, all I need to do is bring in my light fixture assembly. So I've got my 2x4 light fixture here. I just need to add one of those in, hit commit, and save this. And now when I refresh that assembly here, this FR1, it's going to bring in all of the components that I need to install that fixture now. And when I refresh this to see how the second run of the AI is gone, here we go. We can see that it's done much, much better now. There's only one of these that's missing, so I can copy and paste that in right there. And here we go. And if I look down my audit trail, every instance of this FR1 now has all of the details that I need to install that fixture. And so the whole goal here is speed and accuracy around your estimates. When it comes to things like those breakouts, and as we can see here, I've accidentally assigned all of my lighting here to distribution. Well, what I can do very quickly here is simply highlight these rows, right click on this, and reassign it. And I can now select my lighting system here. And when I click on reassign, it's going to go through and reassign all of those pieces of takeoff to my lighting system. What we also have in here, because we're very document centric in what we do, if I take a look at this and I get that kind of addenda, whether it's pre-tender or post-tender, where the owner wants to see what an individual room or something is worth, what I can do here is go back into my breakdowns, and let's say that the owner wants to see what this activity room 4 is worth. I can add in a location here for that. I'm going to call this activity room 4, number 4. There we go. And now I can right click on the drawing and use the multi-select tool here to select everything that's in that room. And all of that is associated with various different lines of takeoff that cover essentially everything on the drawing. But if I want to break out just this room, I can right click now, select reassign, and attach that to activity room 4. So when I reassign that, it's going to go through and it's going to generate a new set of lines of audit for me with those different breakdowns all baked in there. So this can become an incredibly powerful tool to react. When you have those changes in your estimate, As you're coming up on the day of closing, sometimes this sort of thing can happen on the day of closing. This can help you react very quickly to those changes. For things like routing in your circuits and all of that kind of activity on here, the first step is to set the scale. There's a couple of different ways of setting scales. If I click up here, I do have the ratio methodology where I can select from any of my standard scale sizes or input a custom one if it's not in the list. I don't personally recommend ever estimating that way. I don't personally recommend ever trusting the documents that you get. I have been burned with that personally in my career. The best way to set a scale is to use a known dimension. So if I come in here, I can click on this green button here to take a measurement off of the drawing. I'm going to use this double door, for example. A standard double door opening is 6.5 feet. I can click apply, and now as long as this drawing is to some scale, I can guarantee that this is now going to generate the correct values for me. If you can use, column widths, any of that sort of detailed information off of, say, the architectural drawings, you can use those also to set the scales for your drawings. With that done in now, I can switch back to my distribution here, and I can start to take off my cable. So I'm going to run this room here in number 12 to conductor. I don't need any sort of a drop length on this, and I can start to draw this in. And as I'm drawing this in, it's calculating out for me the exact quantities that I need in here. And then I can right click, and that goes into my estimate. I can put a box on the end here, right click and add that in. I can then hold down the shift button and grab all of these items that are common between, similar rooms here, right click and copy that. And we call this blueprinting. And you can then rotate this and basically plug this in very, very quickly. That is, in a nutshell, the takeoff if you have the symbols and that sort of detail on your drawings. If you are doing things more design build. So if I switch over to a design build style drawing here, we get that architectural drawing. It has nothing on it, and the owner says, I want a complete and functional electrical system with your, guaranteed price on this. What we can do here is switch over to our drafting quick item pads. And with our drafting quick item pads, we have a huge library of symbols built into the platform here that you can assign to your own assemblies, to your own items. Again, we can add in more for you if you need more. You can add your own custom ones in if you wanted to do that. But there is a whole ton of these symbols out of the box that you can use. And when I select my receptacle now with this symbol, this is a residential project, so I'm going to run it in number 14, and I'm just going to make an allowance of 12 feet between receptacles. When I bring this over here and place it on the drawing, it's actually placing the symbol on the drawing for me. A lot of people do this right now in, say, Bluebeam, where they'll generate a drawing in here and then they go and do a takeoff on it. In this case, I've drawn that in and the system has attached in all of the details that I need to install those receptacles. Again, right down to the screws, the plates, all of the individual components. And all I need to do is draft this out on my drawings. I can select in here to turn on a grid if I wanted to line things up. We're not trying to take on AutoCAD or Revit here. What we're really trying to do is make really good looking napkin sketches. And then I can snap this in and it's going to go into my drawing here. And I can hit commit. I can add in notes and comments on this. If these receptacles had to be 2 feet above the floor, I can plug that in. I can put in images here if those are site photos, that sort of thing. Or what I like to tell our clients who are doing this, make sure you put in your logo. So if I double click on this and plug my logo in, this way the owner knows exactly who supplied this for them and whose pricing this belongs to. And all of the details to put this all together are automatically plugged into my estimate here. So it's an incredibly fast way to generate those design build style bids. And this can all be exported to PDF. And then you can send this out to, the owner. You can send this to your field teams when they're ready. And you can provide all of the detail for your estimate really, really easily right in here. So from the takeoff, so let's say that we've finished our takeoff in here. The next step is to click on summary. Within the summary here, this is kind of your extension. If you're used to AccuBid or McCormick, this is the similar extension screen. Within here, we can see all of my material pricing that's coming in, all of my labor that is coming in. So we've got, 250 hours of installation in here. Right now we've got $6,400 of materials attached in. All of our items in our database are smart items. We're attaching in other pieces here. So if I select this yellow icon, this gives me the shop drawing for that component. Again, if you're in design build, this can be a very powerful way of showing the owner, hey, this is what we've done. This is what we've carried. Pick your color. This is also where the City Electric integration kicks into high gear. You can click on the CES logo up here with your account tied in. You can hit next, and it is going to pull in your up to the minute price out of their system. If you're bidding a major project and you want a better price on the cable, you can call your branch manager and, negotiate, aka yell at them, for a better price on the 10,000 feet of cable that you've got. The moment they save that in their system, you can pull it in here. And so you don't need to worry about generating those, 200 line item bills of materials for pricing. It all happens completely seamlessly. Any of these blue items here are the City Electric items that they can provide a price on. You don't necessarily have to bring it in that way. For example, if I didn't need these screws from City Electric, I can simply uncheck that. And that's not going to bring it in. Nothing actually touches your estimate until you click on this Import into Estimate button here. When you click on that, it's going to go through and apply that City Electric price right into your estimate here. And it's going to tell you that this is coming from City Electric versus, whatever the system price might be for something. If you're looking at something you say, oh, I didn't actually want to bring that in that way, you can right click on it and simply reset the row, and it's going to go back to whatever is in your database. You can also make quick allowances for things in here. If these cameras here, you wanted to say these were $150 each or whatever you might want to make as an allowance, you can plug that in very quickly. And it's going to highlight the whole row yellow for you for anything that has been touched. And again, the whole platform is multi-user, so you can have multiple people working in an estimate at the same time. When you do that, anything that they touch, you're going to know right away that this has been manually edited. If you are concerned about that or you want to see what the default was, you can simply reset that row and it's going to go back to whatever is in your database. This is also where you can start to get more details on your project. If I right click on this table, I can summarize this table. I can select how I want to break this down. If I wanted to see it by drawing and phase of construction, I can click on that, hit summarize, and it's going to break this out and show me what each drawing is worth. And then if I expand out that drawing, it's going to show me what each of the sub components of that drawing are worth. And then I can drill this right down to getting that bill of materials in here. Once you're done entering all these kind of commodity day-to-day prices in here, we move on to closing. So when I click on closing here, again, the first thing it's going to ask me for is what breakdown do you want to run in closing here. And so I'm going to select drawing. That is always managed by the system. It's going to be the easiest one to run with, but I could conversely select system or location or any of the other breakdowns that I've used. And I can hit next. And we start off at the labor here. Labor in our platform is based around the concept of a crew. You have your crew of people who are going to go and actually build this, whether that's, one person, two people, 10 people. It doesn't really matter. That's the crew that's going to go and build this project. And when you first register for the platform, this will be blank. And one of the setup things to do is to come in here and create those initial crews. And there's a number of different ways that that can be done. You can do a simple average rate and assign that in, or you can break out, apprentices, journeymen, all of those kind of components, and then the system will calculate out for you an average rate for that crew. Once you have your crews set up in here, you can simply drag and drop to assign them into your estimate. And when you do that, it's then going to calculate out for you your total labor costs. And as with everything, there's a couple of different ways of doing things. You can put your fully marked up charge out rate in here. My personal recommendation is always go with whatever your direct costs plus burden are. And then deal with any markups in the very final stages of the closeout. This will allow you to understand your estimate a little more tightly, control the costs, understand the costs, and then understand exactly how much profit you're anticipating making on the project. This also allows you to assign different crews. So for example, if this work had to be performed by a different crew, I can assign that in here, and it's going to calculate out my new overall labor costs. This gets, again, very powerful if you're on larger projects or projects involving prefabrication. Then we go into packages here. So I used our template to open this up. So I've got a couple of packages pre-configured in here. So let's take a look at this lighting one. When I click on this lighting one in here, I've got kind of the usual suspects, companies that I'm going to go out to for my lighting package. I can delete, any ones that might not apply in here. And then I can attach in scope. So if I want to search for those tags, here's my light fixture counts that I put together. I'm going to attach this in, and this is all going to go into my scope matrix here now. And then I can attach in other items here. So if I want to make sure that they include delivery and shop drawings, those sort of components of the price that I want back. Once I have that configured how I want them to quote, I can click on this download BOM here. And this is going to generate a Excel sheet for me. Click on save it in my downloads here. And this is the Excel sheet that I can send out to my suppliers to put together their price on this. And this can be completely customized to your company. You can have your own logos, all of that kind of good information on there. It's going to automatically attach in, the project specific closing dates, those sort of pieces for you. But most importantly, it's going to give them all of the counts that they need to put together a quote for you on the lighting on this project. Now, when that lighting starts to come back in, none of the suppliers ever break things out. You're not going to get unit prices on any of these kind of fixtures components. You'll get a lot price. So what I'm going to do here is put in lot price. And now with my lot price line in here, I can start to plug in whatever those quotes are as they come in. And the rest of this table becomes my scope comparison table. So if I look at this and I say, oh, this company here took exception to delivery. Well, I know it's going to be $1,000 to deliver this. I can put that plug number in. And then when I'm looking at the bottom here, the goal is to make sure that when I look at these final numbers, I am comparing apples to apples. And this allows you to react very quickly, that 30 minutes before your price is due, to put together a comprehensive package price for the lighting, the generators, the solar, supplies, like any of those kind of quoted packaged prices. And then I can hit save, and that's when it's going to go into my bid here. Subcontracts works exactly the same way. Equipment, this is any of your rental equipment. You can attach in libraries of rental equipment here. So if I needed a backup generator on this project here, I can put that in, throw in, 48 hours. It's only going to run half the time. I can have it calculate out how much fuel it's going to burn for me. So all I have to do is put in my fuel surcharge. And then that is now included in my bid, ready to go, and I haven't forgotten anything with that. Overheads and indirects. We're not going to go into a ton of detail on that. Every company has 12 different ways of handling this and 15 different definitions for what it is. So these are highly flexible tables where you can include kind of your own company's overhead costs if you even go to that level. You can plug that in your template so that every estimate opens up with those if you need those. Then we come to the sale price here. So within the sale price, this is everything rolled up. Again, I can put on percentages here. I can throw in, this is a smaller project, so I might go out at 20 points on this. I can put that 20% markup on here, and I can go back through and fine tune things if I want. So for my labor, for example, maybe I want to go at 15% on that. Materials, with kind of the way the market is, I might want to go at 25% on that. And then it's going to back calculate my new overall average markup for me and the total dollars that I'm anticipating making on this bid. And then I get my total price here and my breakout here. So this was broken out per drawing. And I've got my total all-in price here per drawing. Now, I can also customize this here. So if I've got, say bonding that I need on this project, I can add a row in for that. And I'm going to call this bonding. And I could put a fixed value for it in here, or I can use a formula. And if I use a formula in here, I'm just going to use one of the ones from my past here. Let's say that it's $25 per $1,000 of project value. I can put that formula in and hit save. And that's now going to go into my estimate here. And that value is going to track to my project. This is also an excellent place. Some companies use like $2 per hour for a tool allowance or those sort of things. You can plug that in here very easily. You can put that into your templates so that that's always coming in with your projects. And then you can adjust the markups if you need to, or not mark them up. It's entirely up to you. From here, we go into proposal. And in proposal, you can select new proposal here. And you can select from out of the box, you'll get our sample proposal template. But this is something that you can go in and add all of your own templates in here. So if you have kind of a standard lead letter that you want to send out, whether that's in Microsoft Word or Excel or any of those kind of formats, you can attach that in, give it a name. So I'm going to call this quote 1 and hit start. And that's going to bring it into my estimate. And when I click on it, it's going to load up our online office suite here. And so within here, I can start to edit and work on this and tweak this however I may need. And so this becomes incredibly powerful again for centralizing everything that happened on that estimate. If you're bidding to multiple different contractors who want different quotes, you can just simply start more quotes in here. And so I might need a quote number 2 in here. And then hit start. That's going to go into my list of quotes attached to this estimate. And when I click on that, again, it's going to pull up my template and I can start to work on this. It is all multi-user. So I can attach in, if I've got multiple people working on this collaboratively, I can see where everyone is working in real time. If I'm doing a change order, for example, in here, if I grab one of my other smaller ones here, for example, and let's say this was a change order, under my proposal here, let me just make sure that throw in some markup here. There we go. Let's say this was a small change order. I can come in here and I can hit new proposal and select my change order template here. And I can call this, CCN, whatever it is, hit start. And then when I click on that, it's going to generate an Excel report for me with everything filled in, all of the backing detail, everything that I need to submit this change order directly to the owner. And I can massage anything in here, enter all of that in, customize, tweak this, and then when I'm ready, I can come up here and I can download this. I can download it as an Excel file, PDF. If I'm dealing with my proposals here, this is going to download as a Word document or again, as a PDF. And that is really where our platform ends. We are working on some really interesting stuff with City Electric coming out hopefully in the next few weeks here that will allow you to directly submit and receive requests for quotes. So things like those lighting packages can be directly submitted to City Electric and then returned right into the platform for project specific pricing. That one has me unreasonably excited. And then, of course, the whole change order process and all of those components coming out also. Any questions? That is kind of the end of our presentation right now. If you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat in the bottom right, or you can unmute and simply ask.
You mentioned change orders. Is there going to be like a more an update on that coming up soon?
Yes, so change order is in open beta. And what we're doing right now is we're trialing it with a number of clients. Once it comes out, we're hoping at the end of this month or end of June, you'll be able to see this new change order button here, start new change orders within projects. So if this was CCN 01 and add that in. So this is actually in our production environment right now, but it is in beta. I mean, if anybody signs up and wants to participate in that beta and give us their feedback, that's what we will be hugely looking for. We like to program for what our clients need. Yes, we will, Sean, that's an excellent question. We'll get out a recording to everybody who registered for this event. Any other questions? Absolutely. Thank you very much, Sean, for joining us. Very good, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for taking the time today to talk about estimating and PataBid. If you guys have any questions at any time, melvin@patabid.com is my email address. You're welcome to reach out. And absolutely, if you want to talk estimating, reach out at any time. Thank you again for taking some time today, people.